Welcome, good morning, and welcome to the 23rd meeting of the Cass Clay Food Commission here on January 9th, 2019. And the first order of business here is we want to recognize, well, number one, we've got a lot of members missing, but we do have at least one new face, and Vern Bennett from the Cass County Commission is a new member, and we welcome him. I've worked with Vern on other boards, and of course, Vern's been around the community in lots of different capacities for many years, and welcome him to the board. Also, I understand that we will have a new member to one of the steering committees. I don't know if he's here, Tim Hiller, and apparently not, but he's a coordinator of community engagement at Concordia, and he will be a member of the steering committee. So, moving forward, regarding the agenda, I would like to suggest adding one item to it and then open up, see if there's any other items we'd like to change. This on item number 8, I'd like to add item C, a presentation by Kim Lipitsky at the end of that item. I don't know, are there any other items or any adjustments to the agenda? Take any seat. Hearing none, I guess I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item B is review of the minutes from November 7th, 2018 meeting. You should have received a copy in advance. If not, they probably are in front of you. If you'd like to review them quick, or if not, entertain a motion on the minutes as well. Do I hear a motion on the minutes?
Make a motion.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, just before we move on to our commission check-in, I want to remind the public, if anyone would like to speak later on here in the agenda, please sign the register in the back just for the record. But we certainly, that won't preclude you from speaking if you like, but we'd like to have a record of who would like to speak. So, commission check-in. At this time, we usually go around the table, and you don't have to speak or you don't have to bring anything forward, but if you have something to bring to the attention of the commission, now's a good time to do it. I have nothing. I'm Mike Thorstead, City of West Fargo City Commissioner, and it is my duty for the next year to be the board chairperson, so, but I'm honored to do it. It's a good group, and a lot of good things have happened with this commission. So with that, I'll pass it over to Noel.
All right. Hi, I'm Noel Hardin with University of Minnesota Extension. And I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone, and welcome to Vern. Thanks so much for joining the commission, and thank you, Mike, for taking over as chair this year.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Megan Meardall with NDSU Extension in Cass County, and just an update for the group. Today is my last day with the NDSU Extension office. I'm switching over to work for the North Harvest Bean Growers Association. They represent dryable bean growers in North Dakota and Minnesota. So I will no longer be a member of the Cass Clay Food Partners, but will still be an active community supporter, and I've really enjoyed my time working with you all, so thank you.
Hi, I'm Luke Champa. I'm from the Fargo-Moorhead Metropolitan Council of Governments. I'm filling in for Adam today, so if you're not in your usual seat, I apologize. Aside from that, I have no updates.
I'm Margie Bailey, and I'm here because I'm involved in the Culinary Institute project that we're attempting to form between NDSCS and NDSU, and that I'm also representing Verna Craigdas today and her engagement with the Northern Plains Sustainable Ag conference that's coming up later this month. And then I'm also here to rabble-rouse about the movie that's coming to the Fargo Theater on Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m., and you can be there ahead of time. I just met with Travis Rosenbluth, and he's making some really tasty, wasted food things. So I'm sure you're all going to be excited about that. But show up at 1:30, the doors will be open. It's free. You can get tickets online, but you don't have to do that. We're going to have a panel discussion after the film Wasted, and the film is obviously on food waste, and it is produced by Anthony Bourdain, and has a big part of it is Dan Barber, who will also be a principal speaker at the Northern Plains Conference at the end of this month. So it's a really, really great film. I encourage you to see that, and I will pass these brochures around, and Verna said to read them religiously and sign up. So that's what I'm telling you to do. So here you are. Thank you.
I'm Kayla Bridmore, and I've been working with Verna at Northern Plains, so I'd mostly just be an echo, except that you have 1 day to get early bird registration, so do it.
Hi, I'm Mindy Grant. I am a member at large. I live in West Fargo. I also work with new and beginning farmers, helping create trainings and educations. And just like to say that on February 6th, we will be hosting a farmer panel at Concordia College, Farming for the Future, talking about what our local farmers are doing right now to help rise to the challenge of climate change and weather conditions.
I'm Chelsea Johnson, Horace City Council. Nothing new.
Vern Bennett, Cass County Commission. I'm a freshman also.
Nancy Careview, I'm a member at large, a Dilworth City resident, as well as Great Plains Food Bank employee. I recently changed positions, so my position used to be food resource manager, working with all of our food donations and our wonderful food donors across the state, and now my position has changed to program director, so we have just brought on my replacement, which is great. He started today, and we are actually we have open positions at the food banks. We have an open position for a regional service manager, which is working directly with our food pantries that help get the food that we bring in out to our clients across the eastern side of North Dakota right now. That's the only updates I have.
And I'm Kim Lepetsky with Fargo Cass Public Health. And with the new year, I know we had talked about some things that we're hoping to move forward and look at. And one of the things that we'll be working on is to do the Glean ND, Glean North Dakota again this year, and hope to expand that, and as well as implementing a Healthy Corner Store initiative that Megan's going to talk about later today.
Hi, Sarah Watson-Curry with the Moorhead City Council, and I was able to participate earlier this week in the Ripple mapping for the First Fridays event, which was really cool. So hopefully that information will be presented to this group. I know there was the organizers and presenters and then participants. I was on the participant side, so there's some really great conversations that came out of that.
Okay, very good. Thank you for all the feedback. We'll move on here to item number 3 is the appointments of at-large members. Luke's going to take that.
Thank you, Chair Thorstad. So in addition to members from each of the 7 local jurisdictions in the Fargo-Moorhead metropolitan area, there's provision for 5 additional at-large members to serve on the Food Commission. So it is intended that they bring additional experience and a variety of experience that can help serve and bring something new to the table, no pun intended, regarding food systems and food system issues. So these folks are vetted through, at-large members are vetted through the steering committee, and then we're bringing them forward today. And each member serves a 2-year term. So with Chris Olson concluding his term, the steering committee sought applicants for 1 at-large member, and this occurred in late November, early December. With the completion of the process, the steering committee recommends the appointment of Jeremiah Utecht as new at-large member to the Food Commission. Attached also in your packet is the application for Jeremiah. Unfortunately, he can't be here today. The steering committee also recommends the reappointments of Mindy Grant and Caleb Pridmore to additional 2-year terms on the commission. And there is a requested action on the attachment, and I believe we only need one motion for all 3, Mr. Chair. So.
Okay, thank you, Luke. All right, you've heard the suggested appointments and reappointments by Luke. I guess I would ask for an action on the suggested appointments.
I move we approve the appointment of Jeremiah and reappointments of Mindy and Kayla.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second as well. Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Welcome, and thank you for the reappointments, or the members that are being reappointed for serving or continuing to serve, so. Okay, we move on to item number 4, is Hunger and Cass in Clay Counties, a presentation by Melissa Solik with Great Plains Food Bank. Melissa?
Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee, and thank you for allowing me to be here today. I am very excited to share with you some cutting-edge data that we have never seen before for Cass and Clay County and actually the entire state of North Dakota. So first, for the past 36 years, the Great Plains Food Bank has served as the one and only food bank in the state of North Dakota. Now, a food bank is different than a food pantry. What the food bank does is recover surplus food that would otherwise go to waste, bring it into our warehouse, and then get it out to partner agencies. And we work with over 200 partner agencies all across the state, and you can see our service map. And a partner agency is a food pantry, a soup kitchen, or a shelter. And they're located all across North Dakota, and we also serve Clay County, Minnesota. Now, when we bring this food in, we inventory it, and we put it on an online shopping system, and every food pantry has access to log in and shop. We are essentially their grocery store, a clearinghouse, and we load that up on our truck, and we deliver it directly to their door every single month. And we also fill in a lot of gaps in services with things like our mobile food pantry or a backpack program and some senior and childhood hunger programs. But I'm not going to go in depth into our operations today because what we really want to talk about are the clients, and that's something new for us. So Hunger in North Dakota, 2018. And I will say, even though it says North Dakota, it does include Clay County, just because we have the one county in Minnesota. This is the largest and most comprehensive study that has ever been done in this area. And essentially why we did this is we belong to Feeding America, which is the nation's member network of food banks. And every 4 years, they did a very large national study called Hunger in America. And we participated in 2010 and 2014. So it should have been replicated again in 2018, but they had a shift in their research strategy, so they chose not to do it. We looked at all of the data that we got from those studies and said it is too important for us not to gather that data again. So we undertook this study completely on our own and independent of any other organization. And what this allowed us to do was really dive in a little bit deeper. We could customize the questions, we could choose different locations, we could get county data that we could never get with a national program. And I do have to say a special thanks to the local United Way. Because of their support, we were able to get the Cass Clay data. Otherwise, we would have just had aggregate statewide data. So essentially, there was 2 surveys that were done. First was an agency survey. So this was sent out to every food pantry, soup kitchen, and shelter across the state in Clay County. They had an online survey that asked them questions about their logistics, their operations, their challenges, their capacity, and 175 agencies responded for a response rate of nearly 60%. Then we did a client survey where we sat down face-to-face with 516 clients all across the state, and we asked them very intensive questions, 81 questions. And these interviews took anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes to an hour because these were very personal, and we had a lot of conversations with the clients as we were asking them questions. So we actually had 52 volunteers who we trained, and we deployed them to 54 different sites all across North Dakota and Clay County. And you can see that there was over 316 hours of time that was donated, and I will say we put on well over 8,000 miles on our car in a few months. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the agency survey just briefly. And all of the data from the agency survey is statewide, including Clay County. We weren't able to get Cass Clay data for the agency portion. So the first thing we learned is that our agencies greatly rely on volunteers. Only 39% of food pantries and soup kitchens have paid staff. The rest are all completely volunteer run. So we know that this is a huge volunteer force that keeps our food pantries open. And those that had staff, the number of staff that they had was less than 5. When we asked all of our agencies to report how many volunteers they had in 2017, we learned that there was nearly 42,000 people across the state that donated time at a food pantry. And the hours that they donated were amazing, at over 273,000 hours. So our communities and our neighbors care about hunger relief, and they're actually donating their time to do it. One of the other things we learned is that every food pantry is a little different. What they look like in Fargo is not how they look in Amadon. Some of them operate in their own building, where they are the only entity in that building. Some of them operate in a church basement. Others have a janitor's closet at a school. So they are very, very diverse and very unique. And what was surprising to us is that 1 in 4 of our agencies lack a refrigerator or a cooler. Now, this is important because one of the things that we see at the food bank are our donations that are coming in are all perishable and produce, so they need to be refrigerated. And if we have agencies that can't accept that product, we have a lot of product going to waste, and we have great, healthy, nutritious food that is not getting into the hands of people who need it. We also asked the food pantries a series of very specific questions, and we learned that 78% of our food pantries need more food in order to meet the need. When we distribute 14 million pounds of food a year and we still have nearly 80% of our food pantries needing more, we know that there's a gap somewhere. And 57% report that they're serving more clients this year than they did the year before. So when we think about how many people they're serving, we learned that statewide there's over 10,000 households that are using a food pantry every single month. So you think of North Dakota, and we are a very egg-rich state. We have enough food to feed everyone, yet we have nearly 11,000 households that need additional food assistance every single month. So it begs the question, why, and who are they? And so as I mentioned before, we did the face-to-face interviews with these clients. When we look at Cass and Clay, we visited 10 sites, 5 in Cass and 5 in Clay, and we talked to 113 clients. And I will point out, I'm going to provide some statewide data, and that will be in blue, and anything in green will be for Cass and Clay. So the first thing we learned is that hunger doesn't discriminate. Our clients are diverse. And I think we have assumptions about who is hungry in our community. We often think about the uneducated, unemployed, the homeless, when that's actually not the case. They look just like you and me. Last year, over 97,000 people needed food assistance, and that's 1 in 9 of our neighbors. So just think, even in this room, there would be a handful of us that needed food assistance. Of those we serve, you can see, oh, I see that didn't show up very well. 37% of all food pantry clients in Cass and Clay County are children, and 7% are seniors, which is age 60 or over. 14% of households include a veteran. And our clients are educated. 85% of them have completed high school. 42% in Cass and Clay have some sort of post-secondary education, and nearly 10% of them have completed college. So it's not the uneducated that are needing food assistance. When it comes to race and ethnicity, nearly 70% report being white or Caucasian, 24% American Indian, 6% is Black, and 5% is Hispanic or Latino. Now, I want to note here that the American Indian population makes up 5.5% of our general population in North Dakota, yet they make up 24% of our clientele. So you can see that there is a discrepancy between Native American income and any other race. When we looked at their housing, you can see the numbers for the statewide. 83% reported that they had permanent housing. They have a roof over their head. They are paying rent or a mortgage and have a place to live. When you look at Cass and Clay, that goes down to 64%. And when we talk about temporary housing, we're talking about living in a shelter, couch surfing, living with family and friends. They're in a group home. Some of them are living in a vehicle or an abandoned building. And that's 34% of our clientele in Cass and Clay counties. And 3% were homeless, admittedly saying that they are on the streets on a regular basis. Next, we learned that our clients are working and they are making above minimum wage. So hunger doesn't only impact the unemployed. Those who have a job can have food struggles as well. We learned that nearly 80% of household members were employed in the last year, and nearly half are currently employed. And these numbers for statewide also include Cass and Clay County because they were very similar. They reported that their household's annual income last year was an average of under $18,000 or $1,500 a month. And that's for the entire household, and the average household size was 2.7 people. Of those that were working, we asked them, how much are you making an hour? And I will say I was very surprised to learn that they report that they're making on average $12.54 an hour. That's above the minimum wage. So we should be happy that they're making above the minimum wage. What we also learned is 75% of them are working part-time. So they do not have health benefits. They don't have vacation or sick leave. They don't have flexibility in their schedule. So they have a lot of struggles, and they're struggling to pay their bills even though they're making over minimum wage. When it comes to Cass and Clay, the interesting thing for me was that the hourly wage goes down. The average was $11.20 per hour in Cass and Clay County. So I dug into the data a little bit more because I was very interested in this. And I learned that the urban areas have lower wages than the very rural and remote areas, which is the exact opposite of what I would have assumed. I have no idea why. We have never seen this data before, but it is interesting to see that if you are in a very remote area with under 100 people, you're likely to make $14, $13, where if you live in an urban area, it's only $11.30. We learned that our clients are food insecure. And food insecurity, defined by USDA, is a lack of consistent access to enough food for an active and healthy life. In other words, they don't know where their next meal is coming from. So USDA has a series of questions that they use to measure this, and those are the exact questions we used in our survey. And we learned that 81% of adults who visit a food pantry or soup kitchen are food insecure and don't know where their next meal is coming from. 62% skip meals on a regular basis, and 29% report that they go a whole day without eating, and that was in the last month. So this was for adults, and you can see that Cass and Clay, the rates are higher than they are for the statewide average. We also asked these questions about children, and I will say these were the absolute toughest questions to ask when you are sitting across from a parent or a grandparent or an adult who's caring for children, and you ask them if their kids go hungry, it's not something that they want to answer, and they will have tears in their eyes, and they will tell you that they will feed their kids first, that they will make sure to do anything to make sure that their kids have food in their belly and they will go without. Still, we learned that 20% of kids are food insecure, and 8% of kids are skipping meals regularly. And these are statewide numbers. When we look at Cass and Clay County, the numbers increase. 32% of children are food insecure, and 17% are skipping meals on a regular basis. This is the highest food insecurity rate for children anywhere in the state. And that surprises me because Fargo has a lot of resources and we have a lot of programs to feed children, yet we have more children going hungry than anywhere else. Clients are not eating balanced or adequate meals. 76% can't afford to eat balanced meals, and they cope by purchasing cheap and unhealthy food. They will tell you the McDonald's dollar menu goes a lot further than the grocery store. So that's what they're feeding their children and feeding themselves. They're getting help from family and friends. A lot of parents said, you know, I send my kid down the street to play with the neighbor and tell him to eat there because then I know he gets a meal. That's happening on a regular basis. They're also selling or pawning property or equipment, anything that they have to get a little extra income. And we even heard from 3% that they steal or poach in order to feed their family. Now, when we talk about SNAP, SNAP is the new name for food stamps. Across the state, 39% of our clients are on SNAP. When we did this study 4 years ago, it was 58%. So it's gone down quite a bit. When we look at Cass and Clay, it goes down to 19%. Now, part of the reason that this may be happening is something that we already talked about. They're working and they're making above minimum wage. So even though they're not working full-time and even though they have food insecurity, they're making too much to qualify for SNAP. So the only option they have is to turn to a food pantry. And they're turning to a food pantry more often than ever before. Statewide, clients report using a food pantry 11 times a year. That's nearly every month. 4 years ago, this was 7 times. So we can see that food pantries are not just emergency-based like they used to be. They are becoming the only option for people to put food on their table. This number is a little bit lower in Cass and Clay County. It's actually 9 times a year when we look at the 2 counties. And we know that health and nutrition are linked. And a lot of the clients that we were talking to had medical conditions where they were told they need to eat a certain diet. And that's a struggle when you go to a food pantry and you get a box of food. You don't always get what you need. So our clients are more likely to have chronic health issues. And what we learned, I was very surprised. This is probably the data point that surprised me the most, was 75% of our clients have a chronic disease. That's 3 out of 4 have an issue that has been going on for years that requires medical attention. Of that 75%, 84% have more than one that they're struggling with. That's a challenge for a lot of people. So what were those chronic diseases? We read them, and I apologize that this doesn't look right. We read them a list of potential diseases, and they told us what they had. So for Cass and Clay County, 30% had high blood pressure, 24% admitted to depression or a mental health issue, 22% had diabetes, and 12% had asthma, heart disease, or struggled with addiction. You can see that there are a lot of challenges that they're facing, and there were a lot of other conditions that we read to them or they told us that they had. The other ones that I think were of note is Alzheimer's was an issue, high cholesterol, arthritis, and obesity. Now, obesity was an interesting one because we read it and people would self-declare to us, and it was underrepresented. And there was a lot of pride issues. So even though the statewide average for obesity is 32%, in our study, only about 13% admitted to it. A few other notes about health. There are 32% of clients who are choosing between food and medicine and medical care on a regular basis, and half of them have unpaid hospital or medical bills. Now, when we talk about bills, households every single month are making tough choices between paying for food or paying their bills or other necessities. They report that they are sitting down every single month deciding what to pay and what has to wait. And you can see that nearly half in the state are choosing between food and gas for a car, utilities, housing, transportation. And when you look at Cass and Clay County, housing comes up as number 1, where gas for a car came up as number 1 statewide. So housing is certainly an issue here. And lastly, we know that when a person is struggling with food insecurity and hunger, that that's not the only issue that they're struggling with. They're struggling with a wide range of challenges, from housing to childcare to education to poverty. And so for the first time, we really wanted to dig into the root causes of hunger. We wanted to better understand the client holistically, because a food box can sometimes just be a Band-Aid solution. And we will never end hunger unless we address all of those root causes. So in Cass and Clay County, we asked, what are the things in your life that are a barrier for you? And number 1, at over half, came in at affordable housing. Then lack of transportation, chronic disease and health conditions, poverty, the available housing, and at 26%, language barriers. And this didn't come up anywhere else in the state, but it came up here. And we have a very diverse population in Fargo, and when they're going to get services, oftentimes the services that are run by volunteers don't have translation services. All of the materials are in English, they haven't been translated, and that's a struggle for a lot of people. And so what happens oftentimes is a child is the translator for their parent, or the emergency food pantry, when we shared this, stated that they've seen this and now do not have a written menu, they have photos. And so they can point to the photo of the food that they like. So there are things being done, but this is definitely a unique challenge to Cass and Clay counties. So we have a lot of information and a lot of data. We have a full report available on our website, and it's 116 pages, and it's a labor of love, let me tell you. I hope you read it. It's fantastic. But all of this data is no good if we don't use it. So what are we going to do with it? Well, as the food bank, we have been increasing the meals available to people for 36 years. That is the core of our work, and that is something we will absolutely continue to do. We want to make sure no one goes without a meal. But for the first time, we're recognizing that we also need to decrease the need. We need to make sure that people never need a food box. We need to work upstream and start addressing some of those holistic issues that people are facing. And that's the work of Ending Hunger 2.0, which is a new initiative of the food bank. So it's really looking at creative solutions and advocacy and policies that make sure people have access to the food that they need in ways that they don't ever need the charitable system. I will tell you, if the food bank could go out of business tomorrow because we have no hunger in the community, we would be very happy. That's what we're working for every single day. A few of the things that we are working on, so the data really showed that there's a connection between health and hunger. There's a lot of chronic disease. And we are working with Sanford right now on a pilot project called Meals for Moms, where Sanford has birth designers who meet with first-time mothers to design their entire pregnancy experience, and they're asking them 2 questions. It's a food insecurity screening to find out if they have adequate nutrition at home. And if they don't, Sanford is providing them a bag of food immediately, and connecting them with us so we can get them signed up for SNAP or let them know about additional resources and services. So that's been going very well. What we would like to see is that expand into other healthcare partners and beyond the birth designers. And we have heard from the birth designers that this is a great program, but once the mom has her child and they go to the pediatric clinic, the food stops. So then what? People still need to eat, and so we need to make sure that we're feeding people through their whole cycle. So that's exciting work that we really want to dive into and really look at that connection and get healthcare partners screening people for food insecurity. With childhood hunger, that is, I would say, one of the major issues for Cass and Clay County. You have higher rates of food insecurity for kids here than anywhere else. So we need to creatively address that. We are serving 1,600 kids every week with a backpack from the backpack program. We have school pantries where kids and families have access to a food pantry right at the school so they don't have to go anywhere else. But that's still leaving some kids unserved. So we need to find creative solutions to make sure no child goes hungry. And then we learned about all of these other root causes, housing and transportation and poverty, and what can we do to creatively partner with new people with new ideas and new solutions. That's something that we're actively looking at doing, and we would invite all of you to join us in that and help us think of new, creative, and really customized solutions to address hunger and all of its root causes. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Well, thank you, Melissa. That was a very eye-opening presentation. Personally, I think you think you're doing a pretty good job of it, but then you see the statistics and you see, boy, there's a lot of work that could be done. I've got one question. You noted that 78% of the food pantries say they need more food. How do they get their food beyond the food bank, or do they depend on the food bank, and does the food bank have to allocate a certain amount out just because of the supply you have?
We have not allocated anything out at this point. We distribute about 14 million pounds, and we have, I would say to this point, a pretty regular stream of supply, which has been terrific. We supply about 75% of the food that food pantries distribute. The other 25% is coming from the community in terms of food drives, or maybe they have a local retailer who's donating to them. That would be beyond the food bank, but we are, the majority of their food is coming through us. And I look at Nancy because she was in food resourcing for so long, and that was one of the things that we are always looking at, is how can we get more food? And maybe you want to comment?
Well, I was going to just comment too. I think they're needing more food, but sometimes the challenge goes to their capacity size as well, and what they can hold and store within their facility. And additionally with that, Melissa mentioned too that a lot of the food that we're trying to really focus on the health and nutrition of the food we're bringing. And so a lot of that food that we are distributing now, more than ever, is perishable product, and that capacity for that perishable product as well. And then hours of distribution, and being able to, if you're getting perishable product, and being able to distribute that in a timely fashion so that they can get that out to the clients that need it. So it's kind of a multifaceted approach or challenge that they're facing, and how we can solve to that as well.
Okay, and just to follow up on the perishable, which Melissa had mentioned as well, it sounds like a lot of facilities don't have the refrigeration or whatever to handle that properly. Is there, outside the food pantry, going out and asking for those kind of things, is there some type of program to assist those in getting their facilities to where they can provide a better range of products?
So the short answer is, beyond the food pantry asking, there isn't anything in place. That's something that we're looking at, and we're looking for creative ways that we could bring funds in to grant out to them, or directly connect the food pantry with someone in their community who is willing to donate a refrigerator or a freezer. Some of the other challenges we have is they don't have space. Even if we gave them a refrigerator, they have nowhere to put it, or they're not wired correctly because their building is so old. I mean, there are a lot of challenges that we have to overcome with that as well.
And we have, in the last 2 years, it was 2 years ago, we wrote a grant. We do get a lot of granting opportunities, and we got a $25,000 grant that allowed us to help distribute coolers and freezers across the state. And we do every once in a while get from some of our large donors, so like, for instance, Walmart, if they're getting rid of they've gotten rid of some of their display coolers, and they'll refurbish those and donate those through the Feeding America Network. So we do get them, it's just enough of them, and like Melissa said, to meet all of the needs that, whether it's space or of the facility and things like that. But it would be great to be able to make sure that all of our food pantries across the state have that capacity to hold perishable product.
Good, thank you. Are there other questions? Jenny?
Thank you. My question is, some of these food pantries are much smaller, obviously. They don't need these huge storage spaces like some of these others. Is there a way to reach out to the bigger box stores, the Lowe's or the Home Depots of the world, that if someone's buying a new refrigerator, they go to pick up the old one? It's not broke down by any means, and is that a way we could reach out to get some of these smaller refrigerators?
I think it's a great idea. So like if they're delivering an old refrigerator or freezer and picking it up, where does that go? I don't know the answer to that, to be honest.
Because I know, Menards, for example, in Moorhead does have an area of used refrigeration or appliances that someone could go and buy for a reduced rate. And granted, it's not shiny or it's dented or whatever, but it keeps stuff cold. So that might be an option for some of these smaller areas. For instance, the Barnesville Food Pantry is small, so that might work. Now that we're trending to get perishable foods.
Mindy?
So at the time that I'm hearing that all the rural hunger is going up and people are having problems accessing food, I know that there are statistics indicating that rural grocery stores are declining. Is there a relationship there? Are people just not able to drive the extra miles to the grocery store, or are fresh produce prices going up and that is now making it less affordable and they're pushing people into pantries? Do you have any information on those links?
So there is a Rural Grocers Initiative that is being headed up by the Rural Electric Co-ops, and we are a member. And we have lost 15% of our rural grocery stores in the last 5 years, and there are 10 more grocery stores that don't know that they'll be in operation at the end of this year. So that is an issue for us, because if they don't have a local grocery store but they have a local food pantry, we know that they're going to go to the food pantry. We did ask questions in our survey about where they like to do their grocery shopping, and by far it was, we want to support the local grocery store, and they wanted to shop within 10 miles. So we know that transportation is an issue, and if that rural grocery store is there, that they'll shop there. There are challenges to the rural grocery stores. There are, the distributors like Super Value, Spartan Nash, they have a volume that you have to order in order to get delivered to. And those rural grocery stores aren't meeting it. So they're struggling to find creative ways to stay open. And I think they have a lot of ideas, but it's a matter of getting all of the logistics figured out. And we are at the table working with them to see what we can do.
Any other questions?
I have one. Mine is related to transportation, as seen as that comes up as a root cause in multiple places. And are there any proposed solutions that you're looking at right now? I know I've spent some time at the emergency food pantry and hearing stories from clients there who, for a number of reasons, cannot take the food that they're receiving on a bus with children. Our bus services maybe are having disconnects with where they're trying to get their food from. So just wondering how this work is being engaged with different transportation plans and what's happening there.
So definitely, public transportation is getting people to the food pantry. They may have to walk a distance. I think what we can do as the charitable system is look at what those challenges are. So we hear from seniors that getting a 40-pound box of food does not help them because they can't carry that. And even if somebody from the food pantry loads it into the bus or their car, they still have to get it into their house. So what can we do to make our services a little more user-friendly, where maybe they can come more often and just get a bag of food and they can come back, like a couple times a week. So we're exploring things like that. We haven't dug into the transportation issue as much as this is all the data we have at this point. I think that and housing is something that we're going to need to dig into and really try to figure out, and I think that's something that this group could help us with.
Good. Any additional questions? Vern?
It's a interesting survey that you've done, and it's shocking, actually. And of course, some of the things that we can do are just minor adjustments, refrigeration and so forth. But the real solution is, what do we need to do to put Great Plains out of business?
Yeah,
Basically.
exactly.
We're needing, as far as social services are concerned, like Cass County, 25% of the people in Cass County are receiving some type of social services. That's equal to the population of Minot, 8 times the population of LA City. So what do we need to do to create this need? We're gaining $300 a month increase in just social services alone. Is it vocational training? Is it income? But it's something that needs real big solutions.
It does, and I don't have an answer for you, Vern, because you asked the same questions I'm asking.
Yes.
Yeah, what do we need to do?
Yeah.
And I think that's something we need to wrestle with and try. We need to try different solutions and see what works.
And I'd like to see you make a report at our individual commission and council meeting.
Absolutely, I would be
I
happy
think that
to.
would be good to get the knowledge out.
Absolutely.
Any further questions?
Thank you very much.
Jenny?
I guess I have a
Yeah.
comment. Thank you for your presentation and asking those hard questions. Those are definitely difficult conversations to have. I think part of the answer, Vern, to what your question is the information can't stop at this table. We have to continue the dialogue. All of us are involved in so many different committees or conversations in the region, and so we just need to continue the dialogue and feel out where we can help to alleviate what that need is, because unfortunately it is a broken system. If someone's working very hard, oftentimes 2 jobs, and can't even afford the basic necessities, we have to figure out how we can help fix it.
Anything else? Not, thank you, Melissa. That was a great presentation, and yes, hopefully we can get the message out to the general public in whatever way we can, because it is a very eye-opening survey and report. Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, which is Stock Healthy, Shop Healthy, implementation of Healthy Corner Store Blueprint. Megan?
All right. Good morning, everyone. So I'm here to give a report on behalf of a number of partners on the implementation of the Healthy Corner Store Initiative Blueprint. So you might remember a year ago, January of 2018, our commission approved a Healthy Corner Store Initiative Blueprint. And for those who remember, the Healthy Corner Store Initiative is working with a small food retailer to try to increase the number of healthy food options that are stocked in that location, with the hope of making those foods more accessible to the community that surrounds that small store. And so I'm excited to share that last May, a training came to North Dakota State University for a program called Stock Healthy, Shop Healthy, which is essentially a toolkit to implement a Healthy Corner Store initiative in a community. And so myself with NDSU Extension and Kim Lepetsky from Fargo Cass Public Health, we're both trained in this toolkit. And we are in the process of implementing it in a store in Fargo. And so just wanted to share an update on what we're doing. So the Stock Healthy, Shop Healthy program is really as I mentioned, doing that work to implement a Healthy Corner Store initiative. The goals of the program are to increase the quantity, quality, and to better merchandise healthy food within a store, knowing that a lot of small food retailers might have a number of healthy options that they're already selling, but they may not be well merchandised or well promoted or having that visibility for customers. In addition to that, it's one part to get those foods into the store, but it's also to make sure that the community is aware that those foods are there and to build a demand for those healthy food options with the hope of attracting and retaining new customers for the store, as well as providing food and nutrition education for the store customers and the broader community. So Kim and I were trained in this program in May, and throughout last summer, we began looking for a small coalition to start to implement this toolkit. And when we started to think about the neighborhoods where a store might be, where we might be interested in approaching a store, we looked at our Metropolitan Food Systems Plan and where food deserts were identified. And the Jefferson neighborhood in the Fargo community is identified as a food desert, meaning that it lacks proximity to a full food service retailer. And there is a high number of students in the Jefferson school that are receiving free and reduced lunch, which is an indicator of the income status of the community. So we approached the Jefferson Area Neighborhood Association, and Don Morgan is here representing that association. They're an active neighborhood group. And they were very interested in working with us to identify a store and begin implementing this program in their community. Charism is a very active organization in that neighborhood as well, doing a lot of great youth programming, as well as other services within the Jefferson neighborhood. So they became involved this summer. And then the city of Fargo is also a partner too with a number of different programs that exist within the city. So this was the coalition that came together this summer, and through a number of conversations and work that we did, we identified the community food market in the Jefferson neighborhood as an ideal store to work with for this project. So a small food retailer, ideally when you're doing a Healthy Corner Store initiative, you want to work with a store that's independently owned and operated. The franchises become a little bit more difficult because they have a number of different stocking criterias and ways in which the store is laid out. So the community food market is owned by Powell and James Moa. They've owned the store for about 5 years. And if anyone has visited the store, they have a wide selection of products, and actually have a very interesting selection of Asian foods and products as well. And so, and they also service the Jefferson neighborhood and have a large number of youth that are coming into the store regularly. This summer, we were all spending time just stopping into the store to kind of see the clients, see the customers, get to know the store a little bit more. And throughout the summer, the number of kids that were coming in to buy pop, candy, and chips was very high. So kind of thinking about wanting to work with a store that is working with a vulnerable population and also wanting to do something to really directly connect with youth, this became identified as the ideal store. So we signed a memorandum of understanding with the MOAs earlier this fall, meaning that they were willing to work with us and willing to do changes within the store to better merchandise and promote the healthy food options, and be open to some creative solutions. So one thing that's really great about the Stock Healthy, Shop Healthy program is that it's a dual approach. It is working within the store to increase those healthy food options and to merchandise and better promote them. And it includes a lot of great resources like Shelf Talkers, where if you put more whole grains in the store, a little thing that you'd put a little piece of signage on the shelf that says, whole grains are great for your heart, eat more whole grains. So it's kind of those little prompts in the store to promote those options. But then it also is a community intervention program, and it lays out a number of different proven community interventions so that when the changes are being made in the store, we're simultaneously increasing community awareness and demand for those healthy options. So customer surveys, making sure that we're asking folks what they would like to buy instead of just putting what we assume that they would like to buy. A number of in and out of store activities, marketing and promotion, and then also community outreach and education with an emphasis on youth. And to be in compliance with the toolkit, you have to do something in 5 different categories for the community intervention, because they want to make sure that you are hitting all the appropriate areas to make sure that we are doing the proper amount of community outreach that's necessary for this program to be successful. So right now, we are really at the beginning phase of actually implementing this program. We just completed our assessment of the store back in December, which was basically, we took a lot of photos of the store, we interviewed the store owner, and we measured the amount of resale space right now that is allocated to healthy food options. So that's low-fat dairy, whole grains, lean proteins, fruits and vegetables, and so we have all of that baseline information. And now what we're going to be doing is starting to implement this toolkit. We're going to be doing surveys in the store and at Charism towards the end of January to get a sense of what customers are looking for, what they are currently buying, what they might like to buy, so that we can be thoughtful about the interventions within the store. The second item on there is something that we might ask for your help if you know anybody. We're kind of feeling out some conversations right now, but none of us on our coalition are retailing merchandising experts. And if anybody goes shopping, you know that there is people that can create beautiful displays that make foods and products really enticing. And so we want to hire somebody, and thankfully Fargo Cass Public Health has a chronic disease prevention grant where we can contract with someone to come in and do some analysis of the store and say, move this here, set this up like this, so that we can best promote and display those healthy food options. Charism is fully on board. They do a youth education program where they have youth coming into their building every day, and they are going to tailor their curriculum to be in coordination with our Healthy Corner Store program, so that the youth are finding out about the healthy foods that are going into the store and receiving little promos and taste testing items that will be at the community food market. So hopefully getting them excited about these new foods and going over and shopping there. We'll be doing a variety of different community events, taste testing new products, nutrition education. Hopefully this summer, if you've driven by, it has a big outdoor parking lot in the front of the store, and we are really hoping to do some sort of a community festival or event in the outside space, seeing that that location it's a food market, but it's kind of a community cornerstone. You hear about people just gathering outside of that space, and we've been brainstorming and dreaming about having seating and having planter boxes and having an outdoor mural and just really beautifying and celebrating that space within the community. Media, promotion, trying to build excitement around there, and then we're at the beginning stages of this, so we're open to ideas and other collaborations and things to be done. So just wanted to give you a little update of where we're at, and I know with Glean ND that we saw come to life this last summer, that was the implementation of one of our blueprints that came out of this commission, and now this Stock Healthy, Shop Healthy is another implementation of a blueprint from this commission. So we're seeing how the work that we're doing at this table is finding its way out into the community and doing good things. So happy to answer any questions, or Don, or if any of the other partners have anything that they'd like to share. I think we have a few minutes.
Good. Thank you for the information, Megan. Are there any questions for Megan? Comments?
I have a quick question, Megan.
Yes.
Do they sell much gas? Are those gas pumps functional?
They said that they do not sell a lot of gas. They are functional. It is cash only. And I believe that there has been discussion about removing the gas pumps because they just aren't a very large part of their business.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Something to consider. At this point, we really, this is the first place that I've put all the logos together. So in terms of who the partners are involved, the Cass Clay Food Partners could definitely have a presence within that.
Any other questions here?
Did you have anything to share, Don?
Any additional comments, questions?
I'm just curious, could you talk a little bit, Megan, about the motivation of the store owners in being involved with this and what kinds of benefits they're hoping to see from it?
Yeah, so the MOAs are entrepreneurs. They own a few different establishments in the Fargo-Moorhead community, and they are very interested in being neighbors within the Jefferson neighborhood and being good neighbors to the folks that live around the community. When we ask them how they determine the products or the foods that they offer within the store, they said that they are taking information from people. When people ask for something, they get it for them. So they are really trying to be good stewards of their neighbors. When we shared our emphasis on wanting to make healthy food options, they said that they're hearing that from their customers and they are interested in that as well. And then they are also interested in this from a business perspective too, knowing that people are interested in making healthier choices for themselves and their families and seeing this as a way to hopefully do right by the customers that they have, but also to potentially attract new customers too. And the main thing that we have heard from the MOAs is that they're interested and excited, but this is a family-run grocery store. It's a husband and wife, a mother-in-law, and that's it for employees. So they're interested in working with us and having us involved, but they are not looking at something that's going to require a lot of work on their end. But they said that they're open to us helping them. So.
One other thing I want to say about Powell is that she owns the Lucky Salon. She is a real many business interests, but one of the things that she's really interested in is seeing that immigrants are well respected in the community, so they want to have more visibility there and in other places, just to, in that sense of goodwill.
Vern?
I think that most people, even though they're not using it, understand the benefits of healthy food. Are you doing something to create healthy foods that are affordable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that will be, there's a number of different things that are built into the program, like a customer loyalty option, where if folks go to the store and buy 9 gallons of milk, they'll get a gallon of milk free. So trying to do some financial incentives for folks to make those healthy food options. There's also components of the program that show healthy, cost-effective recipes and promoting those items like the dry beans, the low-fat dairies, the whole grains, things that can be used for the base of meals that are lower in cost. So those are a few of the different options that exist within the program to try to show that healthy eating doesn't always have to be a cost barrier too.
Anything else? Just one comment I've got. I'm intrigued by neighborhood associations in West Fargo. We've created so many new neighborhoods. I know of maybe one association, and I think that would be a good vehicle, not only for this, but other things, to work through ideas like this, because I think like you mentioned, if we go to Spartan Nash or any of the big distributors or Casey's or whatever, I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of movement for them to change their business model. But if you have groundswell organizations like neighborhood associations, you can see what their needs are and get them to support it. It's a lot easier to get things done, particularly with independents, obviously, but we all know that the larger corporations control a lot of the food distribution, so. Anyway, I'm going to follow up on that. Again, West Fargo, I don't believe has many, if any, and I've heard of Jefferson, and I think Roosevelt, and some other ones in Fargo, and I think that's a good idea to have neighborhoods who can, work hand in hand with, so. Any other comments on the subject? Okay, thank you very much, Megan. Moving on, we go to the public comment opportunity. If any of the people in the audience would like to speak, please come to the podium and please give us your name and make your comments. A quiet crowd today. All right. No one change your mind? Okay. Very good. We'll move on from that on to the...
Mike, she just waved.
Oh, you do have one. Okay.
I just have a simple question for Melissa. I was wondering whether donations to the food pantry are screened in any way for healthy foods, or whether you take whatever you get.
That's a great question, Don. So I don't even know what percentage of the food that we get is donated. Do you know?
About 96%.
96%. And so we, at this point, have been taking all donations. We have a new commitment to nutrition and healthy food. So when we are going out, and when Nancy was in the position, she was actually going out and trying to find that healthy produce and those perishable products. So we have more of that to offer. And when we talked in the survey with our food pantries and soup kitchens, that's what they want. 93% of them said that they want healthier, more nutritious product. So that's a shift that we are making at the food bank. Yeah.
Okay, and if you didn't hear the question, particularly online, the question was regarding screening food donations when the food bank receives them. Thank you for that question. Okay, we're on item number 7, which is a commission and steering committee roundtable. Is there any further discussion or comments that the board would like to make?
I know this is coming up as an action item, but is it all right if I give a little details for the First Fridays event in February?
Sure, please do.
So the next First Fridays event is Friday, February 1st, and we're going to be talking about the food service worker shortage in Cass and Clay County. We have Kyle Armitage from North Dakota State School of Science. He's a professor there. We have Lisa Gibson. She runs the food service and a whole bunch of other different branches of Sanford. And then Nicole from Nicole's Fine Pastry. And we just had our speaker meeting last night, and they shared some really, really fascinating information about the challenges of maintaining a full food service staff and how that's rippling across the community, and the number of restaurants that we're seeing open, and the simultaneous hearing restaurants saying that they can't keep staffed is something that I think we need to be thinking about and keeping top of mind. So Friday, February 1st, we're moving to Dakota Medical Foundation for that first Friday. 8 a.m., free event. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that issue in our community, would invite you to attend.
Where's that located at?
It's on 42nd Street, near 32nd Avenue, too.
Okay.
And they have a great large meeting room space there. Free coffee, too.
Wow. All right. Anything else on the roundtable discussion? Yes, Deb.
I would have an announcement from Growing Together Gardens. We will be having our Growing Together sign-up potluck and just gathering event at Olivet on Thursday, March the 21st. And usually it's around 5:30 in the afternoon that we start dishing up and gathering together. So anyone who is interested, especially when we are looking at the need for fresh produce and the expense of it, these gardens are free to be able to be involved in. There is no cost for people. It's putting in at least 16 hours of work in the gardens.
Thank you. Vern?
Is there any plans of doing indoor gardening during the other times of the year?
Does anyone else have anything to add on that?
I wish.
Please.
There's been meetings at the World Garden that Growing Together is doing about adding a greenhouse. There's been meetings with the Fargo Parks, but it's in the planning stages. It's not happening right now. But they would. Thanks. They would like to add a greenhouse in the next few years, and that would be producing food year-round and also a lot of starts for the spring planting.
Anything else? Okay, we'll move on to the number 8, the action steps. Like I say, Megan already discussed the First Fridays program. Item B is the next commission meeting is scheduled for March 13th. We'll find out a location, I guess, when the time comes. And then item C, Kim has a presentation she'd like to make.
Not a big presentation or anything, but as Megan mentioned, she's going to be moving on from her job at Cass County Extension to the North Harvest Bean Growers Association. So we just wanted to take this time on behalf of the commission to thank you for your services. Megan has been instrumental in getting the Food Commission going, also getting First Fridays going, the Food Action Network, as well as a very active member on our Food Partners Steering Committee. So we just want to thank you for your time, your dedication, your service, and we're glad you're still going to be in the community, and we hope that we can still continue to work some with you. So we have a little plaque of appreciation for you. So thank you.
Question I got, did she ask permission to leave the board? She really has, she's really been the driving force to getting this going, so you still got to show up once in a while anyway. Thank you for all your service and your assistance. Anything else?
Excuse me. I just want to apologize that I came late. I had a flat tire. I came back from Atlanta yesterday, and probably the snow got on my tire. So I'm really sorry about that. But I'm so glad to be here and honored to be with you guys again. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. Glad you made the effort to come. I would have stayed home. All right, very good. We're on to item 9, adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, leave. Everyone else stay here.
Aye.
Thank you.